Easily the most exciting matchup of round 2 to me has to be the Warriors versus the Lakers. With the history that LeBron and Steph Curry have, this series should be awesome. Not to mention, I think these are two fairly evenly matched teams, and honestly, I could see the series going either way. So, Lakers versus Warriors, who will win? Let's talk about it. Real quick before I get into this video, if you end up enjoying it, please be sure to drop a like. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Also subscribe to the channel for near daily NBA playoff content, and go subscribe to my second channel where there is definitely daily NBA content, often 2 videos a day. That channel has been popping off lately quite a bit, so if you haven't been over there, you're missing out. Also, as you may have noticed, using this microphone, my other one, there's an issue. This one's not as good, but we're just making do with what we have. So first things first, I just want to say I'm not really going to dive into the regular season matchups between these teams because the actual Lakers didn't really play the Warriors as they are much because, as we well know, the Lakers at the beginning of the season are a completely different team from the Lakers at the end of the season. So with that in mind, let's talk about how the Lakers defend the Warriors. So the first question is obviously, how do you defend Stephen Curry? Specifically, who is going to be that one-on-one defender? I do think there is a strong chance that the Lakers actually defend the pick and roll with Steph and Draymond or Looney, whoever it ends up being, pretty damn well, because regardless of if it's Vanderbilt or Anthony Davis defending that screen action, they're going to have the versatility to step up and get a contest on any kind of pull-up from Steph Curry, and they also will be able to recover if they step up a lot and the roll man gets going. Not to mention that Draymond Green and Kevon Looney are not the most threatening role men in the world, so they will be able to step up in that regard. But regarding the one-on-one matchup, I actually do think that Jared Vanderbilt, even though I mentioned him for defending the bigs, does make a good amount of sense. Just looking at what their perimeter defensive capability is in general, he's really the only one who's a super strong perimeter defender. I do worry about him maybe not having the quickness and the ability to turn the corner like he needs to defend Steph all the time. But when I compare that to what they have by comparison, what a sentence. When I compare that to like D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves defending him, Vando seems like the better option to me. So I would probably go with that matchup and then try and have AD guard as much of the screen action as possible. Now, the Warriors could respond to this by having screens from guys like Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, and Andrew Wiggins to try and force some of LA's weaker defenders to defend that action, but I think that won't be too prevalent, especially given that none of those guys are especially threatening as a screener, you know? I don't think it should be too big of an issue, but I definitely do worry about how Steph will be defended. Obviously, there's no great way to defend Stephen Curry, so him going off at points is just inevitable, but they could have a more favorable matchup there. As for how they defend everybody else, I'm not sure who gets the Klay matchup, because whether it's D'Lo, whether it's Vando, whether it's Austin Reeves, whether it's LeBron James, I don't think it would be. You have to have someone who's willing to run around a lot to keep up with him moving off of screens and just trying to get open. One of the best off-ball players of all time, and you notably need stamina to defend that action. So LeBron's probably not the answer. Really, there's not a strong answer between any of them, but at the very least with Klay Thompson, there's less like physical dominance or just creating his offense regardless of what you do, and more so just as long as you get a good hand up. Obviously, he's going to make some shots regardless sometimes, but, you know, it's more about just keeping up with him than actually getting a hand over the shot. The fact that Jordan Poole was terrible in round 1 does definitely help their chances defensively, because if he actually is good in this round, they could have a mismatch in that regard, so it's not that great. Also, I will say a factor that dramatically affected the Kings series, which was Kevon Looney's play. I don't expect that to be as impactful in this series with Anthony Davis to crash the boards. Obviously, Domantas Sabonis is a good rebounder. I believe he got the most rebounds in the league this year, but I don't think AD is going to get bitched to the degree that Sabonis was by Looney. I just don't think, I think he has that dog in him, as they say, unlike Sabonis, unfortunately. LeBron would probably get the Andrew Wiggins matchup. I think that's what makes the most sense. And if it's not him, it's probably Draymond. In fact, actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, Vando on Steph, LeBron on Draymond, AD on Looney, that might be the best way to go, and just have D'Lo and Austin Reeves defend Wiggins and Clay. Those are not great matchups, but I do like the idea of LeBron being able to be more of a help defender and play off of Draymond, obviously, because you're not worried about his three-point shot. So there's an idea there. So now let's talk about how the Warriors defend the Lakers. So first and foremost, they have a very good one-on-one matchup against LeBron. Andrew Wiggins is about as good of a defender as you could hope to have against LeBron in a series, and given that LeBron was not very good in round one, you can also hope that he's probably not going to bring some crazy superstar level production as we've seen in the past. Of course, is definitely very well within the realm of possibility, but I think you feel pretty good about that matchup, as good as you can with this one. Now, how Anthony Davis gets defended is definitely going to be interesting, because do you go more Draymond Green for the versatility, or do you go with Kevon Looney because he's just a big body that AD can't really move in the post? Green will have the versatility to manage AD's speed and shot creation ability, but he could get pushed around a little bit. Not that Draymond isn't strong and a good post defender, but he could get pushed more by AD than Looney would, and the height advantage there is also significant when talking about shots in the paint. So do you go with the versatility, or do you go with the size? I think we'll probably see them try both, and we'll just see whichever one ends up working the most. Me personally, I would probably go with Draymond Green, especially because you're going to need his speed to defend AD in the pick and roll specifically. I also trust Draymond Green to interfere with alley-oop plays a lot more than Kevon Looney. Both of them aren't exactly extraordinary leapers, but I think Draymond just has the better instinct for blocking passes like that. And you can then allow Draymond to have that initial matchup. Hope he plays good enough post defense, and then you can let Kevon Looney be the help guy. Now that really is entirely dependent on who is on the floor, because if it's Jared Vanderbilt, Looney being the help guy works flawlessly. If it's Rui Hachimura, who was scorching hot from three in that Memphis series, not so much. If it's LeBron James, well, if he's the opposite of scorching hot as he was in the Memphis Grizzlies series, then you can probably afford leaving him open all the time, but that's probably not going to work out. So it really depends on that matchup, but when Vando is out there, I do think that's what they should go with. Another big thing is that because the Dubs do have a pretty strong matchup for LA's stars, you're gonna have to expect, or at least hope, that Reeves or Rui or someone will have some sort of major game to bridge those gaps. That happened in round one. Rui and Austin Reeves were especially great in game one, but they were pretty good throughout, especially Rui, even though Darvin Ham started playing him less, which was a very confusing decision. But they should probably be a decent source of offense, and the Warriors don't have as good of matchups against them, so I do think that they will be able to find the offense when AD and LeBron are not necessarily having the best games in the world. Will they be finding enough offense to bridge that gap? We'll have to wait and see, but I do think it'll happen. I'm also worried about LeBron based on his play in round one. He was fine, but he needs to be a lot better than fine in this series, because I think the Warriors are a much stronger opponent. He can't be as passive as he has been. He cannot be as unwilling to drive as he has been. He cannot be shooting 19% from three as he did in that series. As mentioned, he was terrible from outside. You need to hit those shots, and you need to be a reliable threat in general, and the driving ability that LeBron has, he's the best slasher of all time as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, it's not something he can do regularly all the time now because of his age and managing his stamina, but at the very least, it does need to happen, because it really seemed that LeBron was just super okay with jumper after jumper in round one. The Warriors will take that. They will be more than happy to see that happen. Also worth mentioning, I do think there is a decent shift in quality coaching wise between Steve Kerr and Darvin Ham. Now, I don't think Steve Kerr is as great as a coach as a lot of people would suggest. I think he's a decent to good coach who inherited a extremely great situation where it just needed a few tweaks and was astonishing, obviously. Darvin Ham's not a good coach, and often was the reason why the Lakers were struggling against Memphis when they were, because he just simply had bad rotations and didn't call timeouts when they needed to be called, and just overall did a poor job. I don't think this is like some Eric Spoelstra versus Mike Budenholzer type difference, but it's a difference, so it's worth considering. All that said, my prediction for this series, it is tough, man, but I am going to go with Warriors in 6 or 7. They really impressed me in round 1. Meanwhile, I feel like the Lakers should have closed out that Grizzlies series in 5 and then just completely didn't show up for 2 of those games. Maybe they won't have that inconsistency when round 2 comes along, but it is something to be worried about. And that, combined with the fact that the Warriors obviously have the experience they do, and to me, they just look like the better team in the postseason thus far, I'm going to go with them. That said, as I would say with pretty much all of these series, really, it could go either way. Teams are really talented right now, and not only they're really talented, the margin for error for either teams in these matchups in the playoffs in general has been very minimal. So it just comes down to who makes more mistakes, really. And I trust the Warriors, given that this core has been together forever, and the Lakers core has very much not, to make a lot less mistakes. So yeah, that's my take. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. Sorry about the worst mic, and goodbye.